I'm muted. Guten Tag. See, I've been censored already. I must be one of those woke censorship things. But Guten Tag to everybody. If you're, an old European like me who was there when the Berlin Wall fell down, I literally pushed it over myself. It was an accident, everybody. I'm sorry about that. And had to watch Super Channel and all of those very weird German detective shows. I don't know why I'm talking about German detective shows at all, but we're here for the EPL panel show, and I'm here in place of Timuchin, and we've got two of the most interesting people I've ever talked to about football. I'm always delighted to be on the panel show because it's such a wonderful time for me. With Glenn and Sully, we're like literally at the end of a very long season, it feels like, or a very short one, depending on whether you wanted it to end quickly enough. United, also Arsenal. But we've got still things to play for this weekend and still some permutations which may happen. So what we will do is we will look at the results for the weekend, and we will look at the European finals this week, especially the United Spurs one, because that is a all Premier League affair. Now, Glenn might be able to clear this up. We were talking about this beforehand. Is that tomorrow?
What's that? Sorry, Mac?
Spurs United, is that tomorrow?
That is tomorrow. Yeah. I'm Central Time, so 2:00. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to fake a sickie or something like that to get out to watch it. Yeah, we were talking about that.
Save your sick days. Why are you burning a sick day on watching 16 and 17 play each other? Like, come on.
Yeah, that's true. That's
use
true.
it for something real.
To be fair, that's the only way you can get a vacation as well at my job. I have to lop a leg off to go surfing. So we'll talk about that, and we will talk about the games coming up this weekend, and how you think your team did for the season, whether you've achieved your aims, and then also what do you think other teams have achieved their aims, notably Arsenal. So the first things first, before we even continue, Sully and Glenn, how are you, lads? I haven't seen you in a while.
Good, thanks, Macca.
Doing great. Glenn, what year is that Brentford jersey?
This is good question. I think 2 years ago, our away kit.
Can you hold that up? That looks that's real nice.
Yeah, it's a really nice kind of luminous yellow. I really liked it.
Umbro makes the best stuff. Everybody needs to go back to Umbro. Like the Umbro checkered like foil shorts. Good Lord, those were the best shorts to play in.
They were until they rolled up your ass canyon, and then you had to run in them.
Some people pay good money for that, so
that is very true. That is very true. I think we call those people politicians, I think they're called. So let's get going with the last batch of games, and some played this very afternoon if you're on this side of the pond. Let's go from, pick your team. Let's say Brentford Fulham. Now, I know on the Discord channel, Glenn, let's talk about that one a little bit. The back and forth was basically, you guys expected this to be a bit of a humdinger, an entertaining game, nonetheless, or an entertaining game, whichever way it was going to happen. It's 2 games left in the season. You guys have done fantastically well. You know how much of a Thomas Frank fanboy I am, so I'd always like to see a good game from you and a good season. What were your expectations going into this game, and how did the result affect things for you? Are you just, are you happy with how the season went? And just like kind of Liverpool, like you can't really get angry at like bad results at this point.
Yeah, definitely. It was certainly a disappointing game for us. I don't think this is really felt in the stadium, but obviously Man City winning the FA Cup final, failing to win it was disappointing. We were hoping they would win it, right? That was going to be really important for us for 8th place to hopefully get some European football. So we kind of expected, I don't know, I thought Palace had a really good chance. They're playing better football, but we were hoping for once, the only other time I've supported Man City in a game, it felt horrible, but I was really hoping they would get the win. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Credit to Palace. Eze again today. I mean, he's on the pitch, 10 minutes today, if that, and he scores another goal. So he's in form. brilliant. They're a great team. So credit to Palace. So that was a shame. That took the wind at least a little bit out of my sails going into this game, because we were really hoping that would almost guarantee, I think, 8th place would get European football. As it stands now, there's some weird, crazy set of results. I think it involves Chelsea doing well in the European Cup, but less well in the league, whatever it comes down to. But that almost doesn't matter, because what we had to do, regardless of the FA Cup, was to beat Fulham, who are also in the hunt for that 8th place. And unfortunately, we couldn't do it. It was an excellent game. I messaged Alex in the Discord. Just a really, really enjoyable game. It flew by. They took the lead against the run of play. We started brilliantly. Jimenez, great header, good goal. We turn it around, grab a couple of goals before half-time with a missed penalty sandwiched in there as well, which was a real shame for Mbeumo to break his perfect record for Brentford and in the Premier League. I think it was 9 straight penalties he scored. This was the one that was saved, a really good save by Leno. Another Wissa goal. I mean, just the guy cannot stop scoring. It's incredible, and it was the best kind of poacher's goal if you've seen it. The ball's already going in the net from the Norgard header, but just to make sure, Wissa just tips it over the line. So a great goal scorer's poacher's finish. Anyway, going to half-time, 2-1 up, feeling really good. And then, honestly, we were just undone by some Fulham substitutions. Tom Cairney came on, Harry Wilson came on, and they both scored really good goals. Tom Cairney with a fantastic header. You don't really think of him in headers necessarily. You think passing, right? Maybe some goals from outside the box. Brilliant header. And then Harry Wilson, he was a thorn in our side in the reverse fixture when we threw away a 1-0 lead into the 90th minute and lost 2-1. Again, he brings the goods. One of the goals of the season, I would argue. Just an unbelievable strike from probably 25 yards. Just a great goal. It's a goal that deserved to win a game. It hurts me to say it, but credit to Fulham. They kept fighting. Their subs were exceptional, and our subs didn't really impact the game as well. It was really disappointing. It was a game. I wouldn't say we were going into it expecting a win, because Fulham are a really good side, and the West London derby raises everyone's levels. But certainly I was hoping we would get across the line. I think I predicted 3-1. Yeah, we all knew there'd be goals. We knew it'd be entertaining. It was one of the games of the weekend, clearly. A lot of really high-quality goals in there. Brian Mbeumo's goal was brilliant as well. But unfortunately, we ran out of steam at the wrong part of the season, at the wrong part of the game. And yeah, it leaves us in 9th place. Obviously, Brighton getting the result against you guys yesterday, Macca, did us no favors either. I think we can still finish 8th if we win and they lose, I think. But European football from that position is a really complicated formula, as I said. So we shall see. But yeah, I mean, credit to Alex and his team. It was a cracking game. It could go either way. But it's a shame for Fulham to do the double over you. That hurts as a Brentford fan, right? That's never nice. And to do it in circumstances in both games was so disappointing, with us having leads in really important parts of the game. But, it is what it is, really. We've had a great season. We'll get on to, I'm sure, ratings and stuff, right, Macca? But yeah, I can't complain that much. It was just a shame the second half we fell away a bit.
In terms of, we'll talk more in depth about how your season went, but it as a fan, it must be a good feeling to be disappointed that you didn't beat Fulham at the end of the season with a chance of going into Europe. It's a good sign of how the club's being run, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and the fact that we had something to play for. If you look at the table, I mean, Sully, yeah, you're an outlier in terms of how many clubs really do have something to play for. It's probably a handful of clubs right now, just the European spots. And for us to be in the conversation for that kind of caliber of football, regardless of the quality of the tournament itself, it doesn't really matter to us. Being in Europe would be exceptional. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just so grateful that A, we've had such a good season. B, relegation was never really a worry. And the fact that every game has mattered and will continue to matter into the final game of the season at Molineux away at Wolves, which should be a really good game. Yeah, I mean, what more can you ask for? It would be nice if we equaled, our best finish, which is around where we are now. Top half of the table was always a kind of aspiration for me as the season went on. We've had some issues with injuries, as I've talked about at length on the show. So if we can push towards 8th but maintain the top half of the season, it's awesome. And we've played so well, and we've entertained everyone. And again, we've got 3 guys in double figures. Not many teams in Europe can say that they've got 3 goal scorers in the team like us. And it's going to be a question, right, Macca, of who comes in from Mbeumo. he's not going to stay. And whether Wissa goes or stays, that's up for debate. I think it would really hurt to lose them both. But I also don't think they'll be as effective split. They have a real connection, a friendship, a relationship, and they operate better together. So not to say Wissa wouldn't be good just staying, but they bring out the best in each other. You can see that week in, week out.
You can always have Darwin Núñez for free. We'll cycle him down to you. Now, just for all three of us, because it's not a Premier League game, but that FA Cup final, two Premier League teams, Sully, great for the tournament itself, great for the FA Cup that an underdog won. That is the magic of the cup. Because as crappy as Man City's season has been, probably the majority of pundits and maybe most of the people that were, may have a flutter on a game like that were thinking, City are just going to pull it together on the last day. But for Palace, that was a superb performance, wasn't it? That was a good cup performance. That was a solid, honest-to-goodness advertisement for the Premier League in a different competition. And to see what it meant to the Crystal Palace fans to win. Apparently, it's the season of the boards, apparently. The three boards have won all the trophies. But that's a great thing for Crystal Palace fans, isn't it? It's a great thing to win a trophy after waiting for so long.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was not able to watch the game, but huge result. It's a team that doesn't have any trophies. They've been in the Premier League now for quite a few years. They got to be going on 10 years being up top. So it's great to see. It kind of bummed me out, and I really don't want to sound like arrogant or like tooting my own horn on this and stuff, but I was kind of surprised to see it seemed like there was a lack of fanfare by pundits, by the media, for Palace winning. When we won the Carabao Cup, which I'll be honest is kind of an inferior cup compared to the FA Cup. I think the FA Cup is a much bigger deal. We were getting all these plaudits, all this positive press, and it seemed like a lot of people were really quiet on Palace and kind of talking about what the issues were with City, and that really kind of bummed me out. I like seeing the little guys do something big, and this was a great win for Palace. I mean, coming off, about a month ago, we ran them into the ground. We beat them 5-0 at halftime, and to see them come out, win the FA Cup, that's a really good thing. And just looking at across the board who's won trophies this year in the Premier League, yes, Liverpool ran away with this, but we get a trophy. Palace gets a trophy. There's a lot of parity. You're not getting a treble. You're not getting even a double looking into this season, which is great for the league. I don't think a lot of other European leagues can say that sort of thing. I mean, La Liga, it's a coin flip between three teams. It's a roll of the dice. Bundesliga, it's always going to be, except for once in a blue moon, it's always going to be Bayern winning something. So it was really nice to see Palace, and I know Palace is not sort of like the same kind of community club, like a team like Newcastle, a team like Brentford, a team like Brighton. They're a South London team. They're just in the mix of those London clubs. But I still think it was a very, very positive thing, and hats off to the Palace fans. One of my former coworkers is a very casual Palace fan just because he likes the name Crystal Palace coming from that ice house that was in the south of London. So good for them. I wish they were getting more positive publicity. I don't want to say I've liked Palace, but I've respected Palace because they always seem to show up and are ready for a fight. And the goal they scored wasn't anything pretty. It was outworking City, and I really like how this season has gone in terms of that. And again, hats off, much respect to Crystal Palace for pulling that out.
Now, to be fair, Crystal Palace did win the 1979 Shoot Magazine Team of the 80s award, so they have won something that was worth shouting about. I think that was Vince Hilaire and Terry Venables coaching them, and Ian Wright, I believe, was on the team at the time.
Are they dusting that one off?
They're dusting that one off
in the case to put next to the FA Cup trophy.
They're going to dust that one off and then realise that David Moyes stole it for Everton, and it's in their trophy cabinet. Now, Glenn, we spoke during the season in Cup weeks, if I remember correctly, about number one, the magic of the FA Cup, but number two, how important it is for, let's say, the non-top six teams who are looking to do something to make a mark. So for you as a Brentford fan, like I mean, to see Palace do it is a good thing, but also, is it a case of maybe an opportunity missed? It's there for teams if they were willing to take the risk of spreading their resources thinly, as thinly as there. And while you're answering, I'm going to bring Jake in as well, because we have him for a short time.
Excellent. All right, good to see Jake. It's inspirational, as Sully said, to see two teams who, aren't the familiar faces winning a cup this season. Obviously, we lost to the eventual winners, Newcastle, in the quarterfinals of the Carabao, and fans were a little disappointed we didn't play a particularly strong team in the quarters away at you guys. And obviously, I think the low point of the season for me across every game was putting out a weakened team against Plymouth, who turned us over, who is a kind of warm-up act for doing that against you guys, Macca. So I do think if I have one disappointment this season, it's that there were opportunities in the cup. And that's not to say we would have gone on and won it, and that maybe Palace or, Villa or whoever would have handsomely beaten us and knocked us out. That fine, whatever. But I do think if I have one regret as a Brentford fan this season, it's the fact that we didn't really prioritize either cup. But you would totally flip that, right, Macca, and say, okay, the reason we're still in the hunt for Europe, even if at this point it's a very outside chance, the fact that all our games have mattered at this point in the season is because we prioritize the league. And the payoff for that could be European football, which, I mean, hey, you can't really compare winning a cup to scraping into maybe the Conference League. I think every Brentford fan would take a domestic cup, I think. Certainly the FA Cup. But nonetheless, I think it's with a finite squad with small resources, like, you do have to pick your battles. And I do think this season we chose the league. And I think that has been that has been vindicated by our position. It's just, it just is a shame when you see two teams. It's not Liverpool, it's not Arsenal, City, winning cups. It's like, maybe that could have been us. But then probably any team in the top half of the table in the Premier League could say that. And hey, Palace have had a really rough run in the league, and they were quite near the bottom for a lot of the season, right? They really struggled. And credit Steve Parish, the owner, for showing patience with Glasner, who's clearly one of the best managers in the league, who's clearly a master tactician. They just had to be patient. So they deserve this. And actually the ownership and management have deserved it as well.
I mean, it is a bit a matter of perspectives, really, isn't it? I mean, there are managers who will decide based on like fitness or whatever, and then there's managers who say, you know what, we're probably going to have some issues this season in the league. So a bit of positivity can go a long way. Let's flip over to Jay, because we don't know how long we have him for, so we want to get as much out of him as possible. And as I was saying before we went on air, one of my dear cousins who I grew up with, like we were friends as well as relatives, is a Spurs fan, so I'll be cheering on outside of the normal anti-Man United Liverpool fandom. Like I'll be genetically connected to Spurs winning tomorrow. But let's look at the results there for the weekend. Villa 2, Spurs 0. I got the impression rather that Big Ange didn't give two craps about this game whatsoever, because everything is about tomorrow at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we made 8 changes, and that was, it's pretty evident that we're prioritizing the final as you should. Got some of the starters on later just to, get their legs in the game and not be too rusty. I think 8 changes might have been a little excessive. You don't want to have anyone coming in to a final and not played in 2 weeks. So, we'll see how that strategy pans out. But definitely all eyes on tomorrow. I don't think any Spurs fan was expecting to win Friday or will shed any tears over that loss against Villa.
Let me ask you this, Jake, just while we have it, because if we lose you when we get the actual topic, it would be very disappointing. Yeah. Here's my question to you. Should Big Ange, I'm not worried about my job, mate, win tomorrow, does that forgive everything else in the season? Like, do you give him the other season, or do you say, thanks, but we've seen what we needed to see and it's time for a change? Thanks for the trophy.
Yeah, I think I brought up the Ten Hag point last time I was on about how everyone's like, he's going to get fired no matter what happens in that FA Cup against City, and goes on, wins it, and sure enough, he's back for the beginning of next season. I don't know if it's the same with Spurs. A different type of front office and upper management. They run it a different way. I personally don't think he has done enough in his time here. You can point to the injuries, but I think he's just has not adapted. And unless he makes big promises in the summer that he's going to change his style of play to kind of suit the intensity of the Premier League, I don't see him sticking around, because the style of football he's putting out there is mostly fun to watch, but it's just not a long-term way to play.
I mean, there's a huge amount of old. I was actually going to mention him earlier on. Old school Kevin Keegan is about him at Newcastle way back in the 90s. I was only going to mention it because I just happened to mention in passing in a phone conversation that I had a soft spot for Newcastle because Kevin Keegan managed Newcastle, and Kevin Keegan was one of my favourite Liverpool players, even though I wasn't born when he played for Liverpool. And my wife went out and got me a jersey of Newcastle jersey for Christmas for my birthday, which didn't fit because she got it from the UK sizes, and it was way too small. But I did look like a natural born Newcastle fan because it was spilling out of the thing. It was great. But let me kind of tie in the Chelsea United result there. I didn't see this. I listened to it on the radio, the Sirius, whatever, while I was driving around for work. And the thing about it is, boys, this is for everybody. Is it easy to, we could sit here and say, before the Carabao Cup that maybe Newcastle were, taking it easy, whatever, in a big game, you want to rest players for a final. Liverpool are clearly taking it easy now. They've all gone off to a beat and had some disco biscuits, and they're still coming down from that because nobody cares what the score is in the games. And then, Spurs clearly making a lot of changes with the Europe final happening tomorrow. But it's really hard to tell whether United were trying or not, isn't it? Because they've been so insipid this season that you don't know whether it was planned to just not play well or whether this is just who United are. I mean, it's encouraging. I think it would be encouraging for the neutral who supports a Spurs team win that they're that bad. Are they capable of pulling something out of the Rabbits hat tomorrow, Sully?
Say what you will about United, but God, they at least like to scrap. They at least. I think that game was way more about Chelsea being absolute buns depending on the week. Chelsea is so inconsistent. They don't play with any sort of game plan. They just run their 11 players who cost the most out onto the field and see what they can do. Palmer's in his in kind of a dry spell right now. Not having a striker was very evident in that game. So I don't know if it's going to. I don't know if it was more Chelsea being bad or Man U, kind of sticking it to them, but Bruno Fernandes kind of shows up for these types of games. This is a Bruno Fernandes game. So Jake, also, where are you that the sun is still out? Like the Midwest is dark right now.
He's in Finland.
Yeah, seriously.
The sun sets at 8:15 tonight in Denver.
Oh, okay. That makes plenty of sense. But yeah, I think this one is going to be low scoring. I think it's whoever scores last wins. This is not going to be a score and go home kind of game. Whoever puts the last one in is going to win. And I could really see the last 20 minutes. I think Spurs could pull this off. I think they have more talent. I don't know if they have as much, kind of big game mentality as Man United does. But the last 20 minutes of this game, I think, are going to be very, very interesting. I think there are going to be a lot of cards. And if it does go that way, I think it very much favors United. I would much rather see Spurs win. I will never enjoy seeing United win. But it's kind of tough to pick against United. United's lost a lot of close games this season, and Spurs have gotten blown out a couple of times. So we'll see what happens, but I pick very low scoring, and I hate to do this. This is not my Tonali pick. I'm not actually going to put money on Man United, but I see this 3-2 United.
Now I want to get
Jake,
to.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
man.
I want to get to Jake now for
I
this
don't like it.
question, but I want to go to Glenn first because here's the tie in with what we just talked about for Brentford and the cups and stuff like that. You guys are sitting in 8th. And if you watch that final tomorrow, you're watching the team in 16th and 17th playing the European final. It's a bit bizarre, isn't it? This is going to be one of those trivia questions 20 years from now, isn't it?
It will be. It's a great point. I'm sorry, Jake. I hadn't even realized that you guys were 17th until I just checked the table. I was sure West Ham or even United, someone was just like a tiny buffer between you and the kind of terrible trio of Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton. So just to your point, Jake, about Ange's job, I think that's just completely irredeemable being 17th place with your squad. It's just absolutely no way he can stay in the position. It's just pitiful, really. Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you said, Mac, it's just bizarre. It's also been really, really weird to see so many teams with nothing to play for at this point of the season, like almost playing anti-football, right? You've had teams putting out like actual weakened lineups. Like that feels like, Macro, it's going to be part of this quiz question. It's like, why were these teams making 8 changes when they're in 17th, 18th, 16th place? Like, it just doesn't really make sense unless you know the context of the cup. And yeah, as a team in the top half of the table at this point in 9th, it is a bit weird to think that one of the teams who are just scraping out of the relegation zone are going to get like the cherished trophy of Champions League football, and teams like Newcastle, Chelsea, Villa, Forest are going to be duking it out on the final day with like legitimately, 30 points more than the other 2 teams. Like that doesn't feel like it adds up. But simultaneously, this has been a rule we know about. I don't think just because this season it's a bit odd and it's going to favor 2 teams who haven't succeeded in the league. It's just a freak event. I think you're right. It's going to be a quiz question, and I don't think it's worth kind of going down the line of like, it's Io's in the background as well. Marco might be able to say a quick word to Jake. Yeah, I don't think it's worth being like, it's not fair, it's ridiculous, because at the end of the day, it usually benefits a team who's doing well in their domestic league and is going to win a European Cup, right? That's a good thing. Get Champions League football. It just so happens this season is back to front, isn't it? It's like inverted, and it's a season I don't think we're going to see anything like this again.
Now, just as if we summoned him from out of the depths of possible despair, here's Io. How are you, mate?
How's it going?
So, yeah, we have literally in the nicely positioned two bottom segments there. So let's get the Man United perspective, because who cares about the league games right now? The Man United perspective. We've just spoken. Sully reckons this is a Bruno Fernandes type game. He is that kind of spoiler, annoys everybody for months and months and game after game, and then pops up with a cup-winning winner or at least an assist or something like that. How confident do you feel? Because I get the impression just from my lofty perch up here of being, stupidly arrogant because we've got the championship, etc., etc. But that both fans can both feel confident and also have trepidation at the exact same time, because there's no way of saying which way this game is going to go, is there?
No, there's only one way it's going to go. Only one of the teams have European heritage, right? Only one team has European heritage, and that's Manchester United. I am so confident. I called it. I came on here in January. I remember coming on here telling that United is going to win the Europa League. I called it since then. I'm very confident we're going to win tomorrow. Very, very confident. I overheard what you guys were talking about, the whole, it's not fair. And I know it's been going around, all over social media. First of all, let's talk about this. If it was another team, all of a sudden, because Manchester United is about to come through the back door, everybody's mad. Hated, adored, never ignored. This happens every time. Like, why all of a sudden everybody cares about the Europa League? All of a sudden, Arsenal had their chance so many times they couldn't get in. I remember when Liverpool were in Europa League also, they couldn't do anything there. Now all of a sudden we are trying to, win it, and everybody's mad. So about the game tomorrow, I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm very confident United is going to win just because, one, I think a lot of Spurs key players who the last 3 times we met, which is, I think, what's his name? Madison, Kulusevski. Those are the 2 players that really hurt United in those games. They're out of the game. And I also think Bruno Fernandes has been, in my opinion, by far the best player in the Europa League. By far. Like when you see, every time I watch him there, what comes through my mind is like, this guy should not be playing this tournament. He should not be playing here. He's by far better than everybody, he's playing against. So I'm confident we're going to win. We're going to find a way to win. I'm very confident about that.
But I mean, that is a thing, though, isn't it, Jake? Sometimes there's a competition that just has a player's name attached to it. Like this season, for everything Bayern have won, I'm pretty sure this season in Germany will be the Bayern Munich season, will be the Harry Kane season. There's just a name attached. Like, we can obviously celebrate as Liverpool fans the league title this year, but it's also the Salah season where he's breaking records left, right, and center, or trying to at least. And that's the danger sometimes, isn't it? We say there's a team's name written on the cup, but sometimes there's a player's name written in the records, isn't there? And your game changers are sitting on the physio's bench right now.
Yeah, I think Madison in particular has been very good in the Europa League, and this could have been his trophy and kind of his competition. So a huge blow that he's out. Kulusevski, was our player of the first half of the season until he got injured, and then Lucas Bergvall also kind of stepped up when both of those players were out previously, and he's also injured. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of formation we go with no true playmaker in the lineup. I would be shocked if he switched it up and did kind of the 4 attackers like he did in the Villa game, but that would be bold, and it kind of would be on brand for him to arrange to do something a little exciting like that. I saw a comment or question earlier about game changers coming off the bench for Spurs, and I think it's Matisse Tell, who's been pretty quiet for us on this loan spell, and I think he has it in him to kind of shine on the big stage. So I wouldn't count him out from coming off the bench, replacing Johnson, hopefully, and doing something special.
Now, Sully, for the Carabao Cup, almost in the same vein as the 2 lads here, the impression was that the team with the Carabao Cup heritage, which is Liverpool, won the most ones, were the dominant favourites, and let's just have a nice day out for the Newcastle lads. But it didn't work that way, did it? I mean, we were pathetic in the first half and just managed to string something together in the second half. But Newcastle were consistently hungry throughout the entire game, throughout the entire playing period. There was no question that Newcastle wanted that trophy. Do you think that with everything that United has kind of gone through with the 2 managers, with Ruben Amorim and with Eric Ten Hag, with the rumours of players kind of having player power more than they deserve, will lead to some sort of complacency, and Spurs will actually be the hungrier team? Or is Io right and that European pedigree will come through in the end?
Okay, well, Io's not right. Football heritage. Give me a break. Give me a break. I hate to admit this, but I think Man U is the hungrier team. I will say I've watched more Man U this season than Spurs. Man U's looked hungry. Man U does still have some dogs on that team. Like, they've got some guys who can muck it up, slow it down. I think they're the hungry team. I have not seen any hunger from Spurs at all. Spurs look like they're getting all the meals that Man United canceled in their training grounds. I just don't. I don't see it. I mean, I could be totally wrong. I mean, Spurs did beat Bodo Glimt, who I was in a low key very pulling for. I put it in the Discord chat if you've not seen it. Glimt has like a fisherman's hat that they sell with the team logo, so you can look like Fisherman Gordon out there. But that was a team that was hungry, and Spurs handled their business. But Spurs really has lacked any intensity for me, and I know there are guys still on Man U who have some fight in them. I think the complacency problem with Spurs is that they feel they are not going to be relegated. So yes, it would be nice to play European football, but until they know who their manager is going to be next season, I don't think that promise of European football with a with a manager walking into his first year at a club, I don't know if that has the same sort of veneer to it. So I'd still take Man U. Football European heritage, give me an absolute break. I need I need a Kit Kat right now. But
I was going to say, when you say Man United are hungry, are you sure you're not just getting confused with Luke Shaw?
Yeah.
hey, no body shaming, Luke Shaw.
Come on.
now you're looking like a Newcastle fan there, Maka. But yeah, I still think Man U is going to be the hungrier team. I think they have a bit more intensity about them that I have seen this season. It doesn't change anything for me in terms of what I think that result is going to be, unfortunately.
Now, Glenn, in terms of systems, we know Thomas Frank is a very systems-oriented manager. The players at Brentford know what they're supposed to do. Spurs sometimes under a Big Ange come across.
Maka, I hate to interrupt, but the head of Man United transfers is here also, and she's waiting to see how the Man U players actually perform this weekend to make her decisions for the window ahead.
There you go. That works for us. But again, sometimes watching Spurs under Big Ange, and it was the same watching Celtic under Big Ange when he was there, because he watched a lot of Celtic under Big Ange. It's almost like the Bruce Lee no style. It's a bit too freewheeling at times, but when it works, it's devastating. Whereas Ruben Amorim is all system, but he just doesn't seem to have the players to do the system he wants. Do you think it might come down to that conundrum of which team will figure out what they have to do? The players that have a system they don't understand, or the players that don't have a system, but they might be able to conjure some magic that sometimes is often the difference between winning and losing a final.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, this is it. It's all. What's also interesting about this, right, Macri? It's just a one-off game. So when all's said and done, the league form doesn't really matter. Injuries are going to play a huge part as to who's on the field. And I know that's going to affect Spurs pretty negatively with a handful of players, key players they're missing. But when all's said and done, it's going to be the 11 players on each team who are starting, over 90 minutes, maybe 30 more, who are really going to decide this. And yeah, I think it's an interesting contrast between, and having this almost maybe, idealized view of football, which when it works, it's fantastic and it's attacking, and it worked for a couple of months at the start of his tenure, and it probably hasn't worked since then for various reasons, whether that's form, fitness, players, whatever. It hasn't really functioned. And then you've got Amorim on the other hand, who's got a very methodical, very entertaining in the right conditions style of football. And he hasn't, as you've said, had the players in any way to do it. And both managers have kind of head down, plowed pretty relentlessly through this season with either the wrong personnel or the wrong system or both. And that probably is the reason why they are helping prop up the table with the 3 relegated sides. Like, something in both camps has gone desperately, desperately wrong if over 37 games, these are the teams who are 17th and 16th and are sitting below Wolves, West Ham, Everton, all teams, plus many more, including Brentford, who you'd expect to be at least 4 or 5 places below them. So clearly, whichever way you look at it, right, Maka, whether it's the system not working or the players not fitting a system, like, it has been a failure, a devastating failure for both. And when all's said and done, it's going to come down to the 11v11 on the pitch tomorrow. I would lean with Io and say, hey, actually, United, if nothing else, have that European experience, and they have, although it's a much changed squad, it's not the Fergie era, obviously, the personnel they've put together is pretty underwhelming, and I'd say barely half the team constitutes what I would say a classic Man United player. It's a pretty sad looking squad, but there is still something hunger, as Sully said, in the team. I'm not saying that Spurs don't have that hunger, but when I think who is going to be the most ruthless on the day, I would lean towards Bruno Fernandes leading Amarin's troops out and nicking a 1-0, 2-1 result. And I look at Spurs, I'm going to say, was Ange going to be like, express yourself. We're going to make this entertaining. And, to do that, you do need players like your Madisons, your Kulusevskis. And it's a shame that at least it can't be a stronger Spurs team for this game. It's a huge game, but I think United will have enough in the locker when all's said and done. Call it whatever you want, if you want to call it heritage, experience, whatever. There is enough kind of gas in the tank in that United squad. Whatever you want to call it, there's certainly the experience that can't be argued with, even if the personnel is different within the club, right? So I think United are going to nick it. And I do think it's going to be obviously a really tense, hard watch between two teams slugging it out to save a season. The only way you save finishing 17th or 16th is coming home with silverware. That's the stakes of this game. And then you add in the Champions League, which will define the next team's season. I can't think of a much more high stakes game, really, unless it's like a kind of Champions League final, right?
I think, if you're having a bad season or a bad game and coming home with silverware is always a good thing. That's what I used to do when I was a player, but it's mostly because I stole the cutlery from the canteen and then sold it. So here's what I want to do. I want to shy a little bit away from the positivity, Io and Jake. I'll start with Jake. What are the things you're most worried about tomorrow?
Oof. Where to begin? I would say
we have an hour. Just for you.
I would say the back four is probably our first choice back four, and is a good thing on paper, but they haven't been super healthy together recently. So my big worry for them is that they're not going to be on the same page. They're not going to hold that high line that we like to play, and that United and someone pacey like Garnacho or Ahmad will take advantage of that and get past that high line and make us pay. And I don't know, I'm going to be, biting my nails down to the very base tomorrow. And it's going to be a tough watch with a Spurs team that can be very fragile at the back. But I think once that first goal goes in, whichever way it is, it's going to really open it up, and people will, I wouldn't say more relaxed, but they'll kind of grow into the game, and I think it'll be a fun watch after that. But if we don't get that first goal till late in the second half, I think it could be very cagey. And I would say if I had to point to one thing that I'm worried about, it's that back four not being, in unison and holding that back line.
Io, for all the confidence you exude, and it's brimming through the screen here right now. It's actually powering my ring light over here. But my question to you is, if there is a scintilla of doubt in your mind about what could cause United to lose tomorrow, where does it come from?
Not taking our chances. I think it's very simple. I think it's Højlund. A chance falling to Højlund, and he just either messes the chance up or just doesn't hold up play correctly and link players up. I think that's my major worry is Højlund. I think he lacks a lot of confidence right now. And I think Amorim is stuck between, should I play a false nine or should he just trust Højlund? Because that's the only striker that can play. I think I heard Xerxes was training, but he's not going to play Xerxes. That's just for, I think that's just to confuse, Spurs.
Mind games.
Yeah, he's not going to play Xerxes. He has been hurt hamstring injury for almost a month. He hasn't been come on in any game. So I think Højlund is my biggest worry. If I have a tiny other worry, is Ugarte. His passing is horrific.
Now, just on Højlund, because he does have the face of somebody who's been working down the coal mines for 40 years, but he's still only a kid, really, isn't he? And that it's a lot of pressure for somebody like that, isn't it? Especially at a big club like Man United.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of pressure. He was thrown into the fire, and I was kind of okay with him last season because I think he had that stretch last season. I was like, okay, young kid, there's something there to work with. That's what I thought. But this season has been horrific. And I think it's got to the point where I feel for him, like you said, young kid, brought to lead the line, definitely not ready for that. I also think there's some structural problems with the team. It's not just all Højlund, like everybody tries to make it. I don't think we get the ball enough like move the ball from our third to the final third quickly and enough to the striker. So I don't think it's all Haaland, but I think he has got to the point where I don't think he makes it anymore. United. I think he either goes on loan next season or we move him on. I think that's where he is right now.
Well, you got Harry Maguire to back him up, so I mean you're in good shape.
Yeah.
He also looks like a coal miner and has the added advantage if you shine a torch on his head, he can light the entire coal mine because it's that massive and large.
Hey Mac, I've got to head out. So can I get my prediction?
Yeah, get your prediction in for us, Jake. 20-0, right?
I'm gonna. I don't know which way that would be, but I'm gonna go positive. I'm gonna say 2-1. Son gets the first, and then Matej Tel off the bench to get the winner in the 86th minute.
I mean, as I said beforehand, my cousin's a big Spurs fan, so we'll have to go in that direction. So I hope you're right. Sorry, Yayo, but I do.
I don't expect anything less. I don't expect you.
That's good. That's good. We're on there. So,
Thanks,
Jake, enjoy the game tomorrow, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Good luck, Jake.
Have a good one.
Bad luck, Jake.
So let's move on a little bit more for our own teams. Just talking about where your club has been. With one game to go. The question I want to ask is, obviously, in the case of United, that's going to be a very obvious answer that your team hasn't done what you've wanted to in the league. But in the overall sense of the season, talk about what your expectations were and whether your club has met those expectations. The manager has met the expectations. The players have met the expectations. And what you're maybe expecting from next year in terms of any sort of improvement. So we'll start with Sully. Obviously, a trophy win is a fantastic thing. And being in, especially I think at the start of the season, it looked like it could have been a bit dicey. But you must be incredibly happy with what Eddie Howe has done.
I mean, this. What really sucks is I don't.
Newcastle.
We have Battle of the Dogs.
Is that Jason Tyndall?
Exactly, Jason Tyndall.
Like that, I almost have to withhold my grade till this season. Like at the beginning of the season, yes, it did look dicey. And if you had told me it was going to come down to the last day of the season for Champions League football for us, I would have been ecstatic. But we've had chances to put this to bed. That's my issue right now. Losing the Villa game, losing this week to Arsenal, respectively, fuck you, Declan Rice. Hate that guy. Hate him forever. Yeah, seriously.
That makes two of us.
Yeah, like it.
Swine.
Oh my God, I'm holding back. I'm gonna hold back. But I kind of have to withhold judgment. Do I think Eddie has done an amazing job? Yes. Eddie gets an A+ for me. The results are the results in just sort of bad luck. Just bad luck. Like we're struggling with injuries right now. Joe Linton's going to be out. Trippier's going to be out. Hall is out. Isak had an injury this weekend. Didn't even travel with the team to London. That's a big concern for me because Everton's another scrappy team. But overall, it's better than I could have expected. But as they say, it's the hope that kills you. And at this point now, I'm hoping for Champions League. And if we don't get it, that I think will tint how I view this season. The trophy was amazing. I am never going to forget this team. But man, we have at this point now we have to get Champions League football. We've been in that top 5 for so long without being able to put enough distance to secure our spot. Without Champions League football, I give it an A-. If we get Champions League, it's an A+. This might be the best season I have ever had as a Newcastle fan. If we get Champions League football, if we don't, still got a trophy. This team was still so much fun to watch. They never rolled over. It would go down to an A- for me. And that it sucks when you're disappointed with an A-. As a high school teacher, seeing a kid who's got like a 4.0 GPA and seeing them crestfallen when they get an A-, it's like, ugh, I kind of understand that now.
Glenn, let us know what I mean. It's been a great season for Brentford, I think. But even still, it could promise so much more if a lot of factors go in your favour. So, what is your opinion of your season, of the job Thomas Frank has done, and the players who I'm sure you're hoping stick it out maybe one more year, but the vultures are circling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's got to be an A. If we do end up finishing 8th, if we win and Spurs do us a favour and beat Brighton, well, one, we'll have an outside chance of European football, which is probably not going to happen. But B, that will be our highest ever finish in the Premier League. So that would have to be an A. Even if we lost and a few other results went our way, I think, we're still looking, we should, we could finish anywhere from like 12th to 8th, I guess. But like top half of the table would be great. Obviously, if we slip down to 11th or something, it is what it is. But yeah, as we said earlier, for these games to matter, for the final, the 38th game of the season in the Premier League to matter, I mean, that's a privilege usually if you're in like the top 5 or 6, or if you're scrapping away 16th, 17th place, desperately trying to stay up. So for you to be kind of mid-table and still fighting for something because of this freakishly long list of European spots in England this season, that's awesome. And yeah, Frank's done amazing. We've talked about this before, Macro. I think he'll stick around for probably one more season, I'd like to think. Obviously, he's happy here. It's just a case of, I'm sure he'll have ambitions of maybe Champions League football, which he'd have every right to pursue. I just hope that would be maybe elsewhere in Europe instead of a team in England where, the setup would be extremely different to what he's working with right now. And the players have been amazing. What, 2 players, Wissa and Bumo, on 19 goals. I mean, they could both reach 20 goals. Molyneux. I mean, I was speechless that two Brentford players could hit 20 goals in the season. That is absolutely insane. With another one in double figures in Kevin Schade too. I mean, what can you say? And what I've loved about this season is a lot of players who have had average to mediocre seasons for us before, like Mark Flecken, number 1. And then probably Nathan Collins, number 2, who had a few sticky moments for us. They've been outstanding. I think Collins has played every minute this season. Flecken's been superb in goal. He's been really, really excellent. He's got like the best save percentage in the league. He's faced the most shots in the league. So those metrics that you want to hit for a shot stopper, he's topping them in the league. So for us to have like a really high quality goalkeeper, centre back, winger, and forward, with the midfield still working hard, and young players like Yarmouk in midfield, young Ukrainian player emerging and actually like starting 3 games in a row or 4 games in a row now. It's great. And yeah, I guess the transition period is going to be pretty hard on us because Bumo's definitely off, as we mentioned. 1 or 2 others people are going to be coming in for. So yeah, I just hope that we can keep Thomas Frank and use this season as like a springboard into the next, as opposed to, and this could be the case, this is kind of the peak of this like mini Premier League era under Frank. And then next season we lose key players, we stagnate, and we wrap up a season at 16th. That would be a shame. So excited, but also nervous, and knowing that our team will look different next season and seeing how we can adapt to the loss of key players. But hey, we lost Ivan Toney and we've never scored more goals, so it can happen.
Obviously the league position is disappointing for United fans. Maybe 10, you're sitting there going, well, we could have been so much more. But 16, 17 is pretty damning for an indictment of a season. But if you come away with the trophy, you've still come away with a trophy. You're obviously not getting relegated. So there's still some degree of success. So what do you think of your season overall, with all the competitions taken into account? What is your thoughts on Ruben Amorim, and what did you want to see more of, and what grade would you give it if you were to give it a grade?
Oh, I'll start from grade. This is an F. It's an absolute F. Even if we win the Europa, it's an absolute F. The Europa is just to boil the piss, right? I like the fact that rival fans are so mad that United are about to come through the back door again. Last year we got to Europe through the back door by winning the FA Cup, so that's all for banter. In reality, when I'm in my United group chats, this is an absolute F. It's terrible. It's a terrible season, and it's unacceptable, to be honest. And regarding Amorim, I was one of those people that when Amorim came in, I said I don't know what to expect of him, right? I think, a lot of United fans had extreme opinions. There were ones that just like, oh, he's terrible, blah, 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 blah. He's just one of those idealist manager that just has a system. And there's some that were literally telling me, oh, I think this is the guy that's going to take us back to the promised land. I'm like, I don't know what any of you guys have seen. From what I've seen so far, it's like I don't know anything about him. And what I've seen so far the last couple of games he comes across to me as one of those guys who, and I think a lot of managers who come from like Netherlands, who come from Portugal, fall into that category where they were able to coach a team that had a talent advantage over the rest of the league, apart from like two other teams like Porto, Benfica, apart from those ones, and come up with a system where most of the other teams are not good enough, don't have enough talent to match up the system. And it comes to the Premier League where this is the best like Premier League we've seen in a long time. Like the middle table teams are really good. The talent that is that the coaching is incredible in the Premier League, and the talent too is bad at United for sure. But coming halfway through a season, trying to change things halfway through a season, and trying to force a system down players with different profiles. Like one of those guys that he's just thinking about the system, and I want to play my system without looking at what the profile of each player, what their strengths and weaknesses are, right? For example, I'll give a simple example. I was talking about Ugarte earlier when I said I was worried. He has the system where, the back three, one of the back defenders steps, one of the back three defenders steps into midfield, and the second most important person is the person receiving from that defender, right? The deepest out of the two midfielders. But then he plays Ugarte there, who that's not what he does. That's literally why PSG got him out of PSG. Like he's not good at receiving under pressure. His passing is not good under pressure. Like he's just more of a guy who just goes, wins the ball, and gives it to the person who passes. That's what he was doing in PSG. But then he's playing Ugarte as the person that's receiving the pass. So those are the little things he does where I was like, it seems like one of those guys. But the jury is still out for me. I don't think he should be fired regardless of what happens. Even if he loses tomorrow, I don't think he should be fired. I think it's one of those things. You've made this call halfway through the season, a drastic call, bringing in managers whose system doesn't fit the players you have. Yes, you have some bad players, but we have some okay and good players. So if you made this call, you have to lean into it all the way. That's my opinion. You can't just, like jettison it at this point and say you want to get it. It doesn't make any sense. You lean into it for one more season and see where it goes. Regarding the players, apart from Bruno Fernandes, in my opinion, and maybe Ahmad, before he got injured. I know he's back now. None of the players come out of the season without anything than a letter F. Everybody had a terrible season, in my opinion.
Now, let me ask this.
Maguire too had a good season. He did well this season.
No, he didn't fall over. That's always a good season.
No.
Now, let me ask you this, though. There was a lot of clamor for Eric Ten Hag from the United fan base before, because he was the hot new manager from Ajax. And I think you've hit the nail on the head because Ruben Amorim was then, courted a little bit by Liverpool before the Liverpool transfer people, the sporting director people, realised he wasn't going to switch from his system and it wasn't going to match the club system. So they said, no, we'll go look elsewhere. We got Arne Slot. Is the fear, especially with the new ownership situation there at Man United, is the fear that should Ruben Amorim not work out, that United will just go for the next hot manager on the scene and then have to play catch up again instead of actually looking for what United needs for the players they have?
That's a great question. I think that's the fear. Like for me, when I look at the ownership, I've like done my background check into like how they handle cycling and all that stuff. Ratcliffe seems like one of those guys who is very obsessed with finding the guy, rather than building a system like what Liverpool have done, what Arsenal has done to some extent, what certainly Brentford have done, like building a system of like data analytics people behind the scenes, come up with a model of how you want to play and recruiting players to fit that model. Ratcliffe seems like one of those owners who like he wants to find the next Ferguson or find the next Klopp. He seems like one of those guys, and I would not be surprised if results are so, and by this time, maybe December, this year, and Amorim gets fired, I would not be surprised because it just seems like that. His history tells me that's how he handled Nice. They went to like 2-3 managers before they settled on this person. Literally, he even said it in one of his interviews that Nice are even doing very well now, because they were asked to hands off because of the whole, owning Nice and owning Manchester United. See, they didn't interfere so much in Nice. When he said that set of red flags in my head, like, oh, they are doing better when you guys, hands off. I'm like, wow, we're in trouble.
What? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So when he said that in his interview, it set off alarm bells in my head, like, ooh, we're in trouble. He literally admitted in an interview that Nice is doing better since they hands off, like running the club. I'm like, oh wow, okay, we are in trouble.
So. It is that old management thing, or the old kind of personnel management thing. Is micromanagers tend to hold people back, and then as soon as micromanagers go, everybody goes, "Hey, we can do our jobs properly again."
That's exactly who Ratcliffe is. Everything that's coming out from Old Trafford is a micromanager. So I don't have much hope. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't have much hope of him like taking us back to challenge him. I don't. I'll be honest about that.
Io, how are Man U fans feeling about McTominay right now at Napoli? Just lighting it up right now. How's that in the group chats?
I think it's a combination of two things, right? The people who didn't want him, so like, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so, and there are the other people who are really, really mad about it. Like, damn, like they are. I know United fans that are actively rooting for Inter to win, next weekend. So.
So let's move on a little bit more now, and let's have a look at the games that are coming up, the final day of games, and we'll look at who everybody's club is playing. We'll start with who have Newcastle got? Newcastle have Everton. That's right. Yeah, I remember you saying. So let's see. Brentford have Wolves away. Yep. That's an interesting one. And then United against Villa. I would imagine that if you win the trophy, tomorrow, that you're sending out the cleaning ladies and the kit man to play that game that day.
No, actually, I think they're going to try to win that game.
They probably will. Yeah, they're
going to try.
End the season on high. But Sully, talk me through that, because that is a big game for you guys.
So, it's a huge game for us. We're kind of depleted. This has to be Eddie and Jason saying to the boys, listen up. We got one meaningful game left. We win this, it's smooth sailing. A lot of our fortunes are changing for the better. Should we win it? Yes, we should. Is it going to be hard fought? Yes, it will. We have to win it. That's all there is to it. And I think we need to have a convincing win after the travesty at Arsenal this past weekend. I think we can and have the ability to win it 3-0. Whether that remains to be seen, or whether that happens remains to be seen. I would love for this to be kind of a Callum Wilson send-off game. He's going to be starting without Isak. We're probably going to sell him this summer. He'll probably move on. He's just he's made out of glass and tissue paper. So I would love for this to be a Callum Wilson showcase. I think he gets 2 out of the 3. I think that's my prediction.
When you said Callum Wilson send off, I assumed you meant red card. To be honest,
no, that's Jamal Lascelles.
Now let me just bring the thing back up again there. So you need to win, obviously, but you need Arsenal to be beaten by Southampton, or will a draw do?
I think a draw will do. Right now, we sit in 4th right now. I don't know if I will even watch the Newcastle Everton game. The Forest Chelsea game is the game to watch. That is the best game of the weekend by far. And, going back to grades, yes, Newcastle A- for the season, but as a whole, this Premier League season gets an F for me, because they're making me do math on the final day. I want to have my Bloody Mary going. I want to have a proper fry up on the Blackstone. Like, don't make me bring numbers into this. I want to watch football, and I want to be in a good place.
Glenn, Brentford Wolves. Now, tell me what the permutations are for you, for your team. What do you need to happen apart from beating Wolves?
We need to win, and Brighton need to lose to Spurs, and then Chelsea need to win the Conference League. And then
I think that I'm not going to say that's a given, but they look the strongest option for that. Really,
they should, but I think they have to finish 7th in the league in order for 8th to still have European football. So we'd need Forest to beat Chelsea, and then Villa to beat United, I guess is the way that would work out, right? So we are juggling a lot of different results. I'm not even convinced we'll beat Wolves. I mean, it's a really tough place to go. Molineux, last home game of the season, their fans will be fired up. Going to be a send-off for Cunha, who's going to go to United. So whether he starts or not, he'll want to get a goal. I'm not convinced we're going to win. I'd like to think we will, but it's going to be tricky. But yeah, that's basically the lay of the land. We want results to go against Chelsea and for us in the league, and then Chelsea to go on and win that European Cup. So we'll see. I'm really not convinced Spurs will do us much help against Brighton, to be honest. That's like a pretty sorry team to be banking on. Honestly, especially after the Europa League, they're either going to be flying high or completely finished, with Ange probably already fired, if nothing else, if not in name, but in
that's
in
the
reality.
Levy way.
Yeah. So I'm not holding out very high hopes. I want us to finish 8th because it'll be the highest we finished, as I mentioned, ever in the Premier League. So we need to go get the business done. We need Brighton to slip up. Such a shame they beat you guys. So frustrating that they came from behind. Really irritating, but it is what it is. We should have got 3 points on the board, so we can't blame anyone else, right? Yeah, so we'll see. It'll be a tough game. It'll probably be worth watching. Sully's completely right that obviously the marquee game is Forest Chelsea. That's 2 teams. Like that's going to be a fiery game. But yeah, that's the standout pick, obviously. And then you've got a lot of kind of nothing games kind of folded in between them.
Brighton coming from behind, you say?
Oh, matron.
Just thought I'd throw that one in there for us. Io, at this point, it's only Pride to play for, isn't it, for that game? But it is Villa. They've always been an awkward customer for United. It's even going back to the great Aston Villa team of the mid-90s under Ron Atkinson with Paul McGrath and Steve Staunton and Ray Houghton and all those, and Andy Townsend in midfield. There was always an almost unwarranted needle between Manchester United and Aston Villa, which I never understood. It was kind of like in the 70s, Leeds and Everton hated each other for some reason, even though Liverpool were Leeds' biggest rival for trophies. But there was no real aggression between those teams. It was always Leeds Everton. So this one is a game that both teams want to win. Aston Villa need it for the European places, but you really want to try and end a last home game on a positive note, regardless of what happens tomorrow, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because I feel like the fans, at the very least, the fans deserve that, right? Because I would say this.
No, you don't.
No, the fans deserve that. I would say this, like the match-going fans deserve that. Some of the United fans, some of the United fans online are so annoying.
If they want a positive last game, they can go back to London and watch Arsenal where they live. I kid.
I know. I think the match-go United fans deserve it at the very least, and they've been very, 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 I think, loyal to them. They've not taunted them at any point. It's like the kind of season we've had. Wow, I don't think any other historically big club would have taken this lightly. So I think the players are going to be fired up regardless of what happens tomorrow to try to win that game. I think Amor is going to try to push them to try to win that game. I mean, it could still go either way. I mean, we could try to win it, but Villa are better team than us, clearly. But if I say I should predict that game, if I try to predict, I think it's one of those games that will probably nick it, like a high-scoring 3-2. That's what I see happening in that game.
Let me ask you this, just to be devil's advocate. Let's say you do lose the Spurs tomorrow, and let's say you lose this game against Aston Villa on the last day. What position does that put Amorim now going out of the season and with a transfer window rapidly coming up for the next season? He will be the worst United manager.
Yes,
before Ferguson.
He already is right now. Even if he wins Europa, let's not. His win ratio is already the worst right now. When it comes to win ratio, I still think they just keep him And it's not because they have this grand plan of like, this is what's going to work. It's just to save face, because if they fire him now, it would be like the reverse of what they did with Ten Hag. So I think they'll just stick it out. They just to save face. That's what I think. But there'll be a lot of pressure, of course, online, media, social media, everywhere. But I think they'll stick it out.
Now, unless you've mentioned it before, but you can mention it again because I've forgotten because I have a memory of a sieve. One of those bowl things with holes in it, I think, or spoon. I don't know, one or the other. Let's go, Sully, with your Tonali pick for here. If you mentioned it already, you got to mention it again because I'm stupid.
I'm gonna go with an absolute barn burner. I'm gonna ride Ipswich into the sunset. Ipswich takes it to West Ham. They finish off a nice victory before going down, but they taste victory one more time. I think I've picked Ipswich like 3 out of the last 4 weeks, and we still don't have any academy money. So I think I'm going to go Ipswich though for one last ride this year.
Glenn, what's your Tonali pick?
Saw some comments in the live chat about this. I think Palace will get the win at Anfield. I watched the game today, and even with rotation, they looked fantastic. Eze scored after coming off the bench. Nketiah gets a brace. Sarr, as usual, flattered to deceive. He should have got a stack of goals as well. I think Palace will be fight. It will be a bit of a joke game, of course, but I think actually Glasner would love to sign off a trophy-winning season by winning at Anfield. I reckon the players will be right up for that, and I reckon Liverpool will have to put in a really decent performance after kind of just coasting for a couple of games now. Right, your last 3: loss, draw, loss. I reckon Palace will be all over that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got a couple of goals and got a win.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Liverpool players drag the Crystal Palace players onto the bus with them, that they care so little and they're still so drunk. Nobody's keeping a clean sheet at Anfield. I think that's probably a proper prediction there. Like the Liverpool are probably going to score. I think there's one game we haven't scored, maybe 2 this season, but Liverpool are probably going to score, but we just don't care about defending right now after caring about it for too much all season. But not a bad Tonali pick at all. Aya, what's your Tonali pick? Who's going to cause the upset this weekend?
Nottingham Forest. It's going to beat Chelsea 2-0 on the last day.
I mean, that's
it's
a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a tough one because Chelsea started the season so well. They were touted as title contenders possible, and then Forest were just running away with a top 4 spot for so long, and then both teams have collapsed and really found form at weird times for them. So that's a tough one to call, I think.
That game deserves a draw.
It does, yeah, probably does,
a draw.
Nico Jackson still suspended. 2-0, Hudson-Odoi. 2-1. Hudson-Odoi to score the winner against his old team.
That's probably a fair old prediction there. So let's do this. Let us look for me anyway. If I can do this correctly, because as I mentioned already, I'm an idiot. The league table at the top there. Don't be blinded by the lights, fellas, but Liverpool all do it there. It's so tight there, though. The second place could be it could be done.
But I can't believe City is even in striking distance of Arsenal.
I didn't even expect. I didn't look at the table fully.
But yeah, 7 through 2. I just wanted to be safe. I didn't need this level of stress this late in the season.
That 4th, 5th it definitely goes down to 5th for the Champions League, right?
Yes.
That's so. I mean, if you're the television execs at NBC or Peacock or whatever, you're loving this, really, aren't you? There's something to be brought simulcasting on the last day of the season. But there's all the way down to, Brentford, Brighton, and Fulham and Forest 7th to 10th. That's a good showing for those clubs, really. That is an impressive showing for those clubs. And I love to see it because I really don't want to see Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, and United, Newcastle, Spurs as the let's just put the money on them now to start of the season. It's nice to see teams that upset the apple cart there. Let's have a look at the bottom half. Sorry, Io, you got to do this. I know it's cruel and unusual punishment.
That's fine.
But it's got to be done. I mean, that is it's almost like an upside down table in some respects. But Bournemouth, Bournemouth were the darlings, Glenn, weren't they, for so long? But you might finish ahead of them.
Yeah, they just fell away, didn't they, at the wrong time? The squad size and a couple of injuries. They've had a fantastic season, and credit to them. They've been really entertaining as well, but they've just run out of steam, haven't they? Just run out of energy.
Here's the thing for me, Io. Moyes is doing a great job at Everton.
I know.
And now we are obviously we laugh at them as Liverpool fans back then in 2013, because that's the rivalry thing. But he did get a bad press, didn't he? Maybe he wasn't the right fit for United, but he didn't get enough time to prove otherwise, did he?
Yeah, I think so. I think he came in at the wrong time. I don't think we should have hired Moyes, right? But regardless, yes, he wasn't given enough time. I think Moyes was not given enough time. He came in at the wrong time where United came off winning the league, and it's like, nah, they just beat him off quickly. They didn't back him. So yeah, I think he's doing a good job.
Yeah, I mean, he's a solid manager. He's probably not going to win you the league or anything like that, but he's a solid enough manager. So messed up my own formatting there. So the bottom three going down anyway, and nobody's going to miss Leicester City whatsoever, but we probably will miss Jamie Vardy because he is fantastic. But that's the show for tonight, guys. Thank you for being here. It's always interesting and fantastic for me to host the EPL panel show when I get the chance to. But for everybody else who's watching, apart from thanking you for watching, you got to do these things here. You got to follow us on YouTube, and you got to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and X and all of those social media things before they get banned internationally for some odd reason, I don't know. And then follow us on the Discord. Join the Discord channel so you'll get to know what the madness that goes behind all of this. And then also make sure you're clicking subscription buttons so you get the notifications. But gentlemen, enjoy your weekends. Enjoy your last games. I cannot wish you good luck. But I hope your players just have a good time.
I'll post a picture.
That's what the mothers used to say.
I'll send a picture tomorrow.
That's what the mothers used to say. I just hope everybody has a good time and nobody gets hurt.
Glenn, we need a breakaway show for the underdogs.
There you go. You have the breakaway show for that. But for everybody else, have a good weekend. It's a Tuesday tonight. Morning coffee tomorrow morning for the regular programming, and then the Thursday night podcast on Thursday. Enjoy that final if you watch it, even as a neutral. Despite all the comments, I think it's going to be entertaining one way or the other. And that's what you want from our neutral soccer watching stuff. So peace out, everybody. Have a good one. Here's the funky music because I'm in charge.
All right.